don't think there's been much news because, to be honest, the video game cycles on Twitter, YouTube have been so boring. It's just people just talking about the PlayStation physical media when it's like, it's interesting. And actually, let me pull it up because I feel like people need to be aware of this. Like, so if you like video games and you want to, there we go, you want to go online and talk about it. Sometimes what you want to talk about is flooded or drowned in that sort of vocal minority that thinks gaming should be a certain way. And so what happens here is like, one, no, gaming shouldn't be that way. But two, then there's no one to really have these conversations with. You know what I was just talking about with John Carmack and wizard programmers in the past, that nowadays those people would move on to other things like AI engineering. What this does is leaves a void to where most of the hobbyist enthusiast of video games are the non-touch grass type of people. So most then discussion isn't going to be intelligent online. And like, for instance, Spawnwave, someone, he has 767,000 subscribers, posts a video every morning. Every morning, PlayStation, backlash, the truth is coming. Like, it's unfortunate that what, for instance, Spawnwave has become in his content output is more of a reflection of the conversation on Twitter, when we've learned the conversation on Twitter isn't the total gaming discourse that is going on. It's a small slice. But people like Spawnwave, Mystic Ryan, and there's others too, they latch on to, okay, what's everyone complaining about online? Let's make videos about it. And what this does is it gets in the way of the real issue that's going on, and it's that Sony, and I think I talked about it before, Sony is this corporate entity. We should not be looking up to them to be the arbiters of physical media. And so last week, while I'm doing my game dev stuff and then looking up news online, it's really everyone complaining about PlayStation. And part of it is, too, PlayStation isn't saying too much. Now, that could be on purpose, or it could be just, like, for one, I don't think they have to say anything about the physical. They already said they were not going to do it. They don't need to go back. They won't go back. They're not this type of company. They never have been. And even someone in one of the comments, or in the comments of one of Spawnwave's videos, was saying, yeah, I'm a video game, I have a physical store, whatever, and it's hard to get allocation from Sony. And it's like, yeah, Sony has been this way the whole time. When the Dreamcast came out, they even made their allocation difficult. You carry Dreamcast games, you're not going to carry Sony products. So retailers were like, well, then I guess we'll just carry Sony products. And that killed the Dreamcast. That was one of the many reasons. So it's not like anything has changed. And we see, and again, that's what happens. The real effort we could put into making a change in the game industry is drowned by people on Twitter not knowing what they're talking about, and then influencers using those arguments and languages in videos. So at the end of the day, we're never getting to the root of the problem and moving on. It's unfortunate. It's also unfortunate. I keep bringing that up. It is kind of annoying. I don't know. I did not have anything. Look, today has been crazy. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. Hey, you know what, guys? This is what I'm going to do. Hey, Jonas, what's going on? Yeah, Jonas, I'm glad you brought this up. Let's hope Sony will reverse their decision with the discs. They won't. They won't at all. Look, PC gaming is a bigger platform than PlayStation. And PC gaming hasn't had physical releases in years. And no one's cared because the majority of people, again, PC being a bigger platform than PlayStation, the majority of people actually don't care about their experiences and, being physical. And David Jaffe said the perfect thing yesterday, and I know it's so hard for people to understand in a modern 2026 materialist society, but people are way too materially protective. When I feel like if something like, oh no, you can't have your video game physical anymore, I feel like there's bigger things to then put effort in than that. Like, I've brought it up before. Like, there's so many little things that it's like, well, if we're constantly focusing on that, we're never going to get anywhere. Um, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, I wonder if I discovered meditation before or after I sold my video game collection. I want to say it was before, though, but I want to say meditation would help with that, because once, for me, it was 6 months every morning, 30 minutes. Then it became an hour where I totally rewired my brain. It was when I was working at Microsoft, actually. And there was a fall. It was like that last part of that year, I think. But it was 6 months, or maybe it was 4 months, where, yeah, every morning I was meditating, and it just made my mind more clear. I accepted things a little more. I was able to detach myself from things that really didn't matter, because a lot of times, oh, you want this physical game. Why do you want it physical? So it's there so you can look at it, which I agree. I have Xenoblade, the games I like. But do you need to have everything physical? And then what do you do when you pass away? What happens to that stuff? Did you have a plan for it? It's not going to go with you. And that's things that I've had to think about too with my physical media, my action figures. And I got a ton of stuff here. But at the same time, if something got to where it was too, well, I guess I had the stuff and it makes me happy, but none of what makes me happy in my life is reliant on this. This could be gone tomorrow, and that's completely fine. But I think there's people that and this is a very common thing. And again, I'm not trying to knock people. I'm just trying to say this is kind of the society we live in, where people are very hypnotized by the accumulation of stuff and material things, and you start to create an identity. You start, projecting an identity onto that if you don't have other things in life that you can hang on to. For me, some of my grounding that works really well, not only the meditation, mindfulness, but walking outside, being outside. I do it all the time throughout the day. That's why when I stream, I only stream for like 30 minutes. When I do my streams with Steven, it's like an hour. I think the longest I streamed was when Requiem for Vengeance dropped. The whole thing. It was like 2 hours. You could watch the whole thing, but I took a break after an hour because I just can't sit for an hour. And it's not that I can't, it's just mentally I've been able to kind of wire myself to be like, hey, Adam, you need to go. And part of this has to do with experience. There was a time where I lost the ability to walk, and I had to crawl everywhere. And we had a 2-story house, so that was annoying getting upstairs. Eventually I found out it was some very basic stretching that I could do every day that I would naturally get by touching grass, by just being outside. And so by marrying the sort of being in tune with nature and the physicality of how I move my body, I was able to sort of create this grounding that it doesn't matter what happens with video games, movies, toys. It's this kind of centered self that I can get into when anything bad's going on, like when I lost my job and the people there just kind of cut me off immediately and I couldn't talk to anyone. It was actually kind of depressing. And I remember escaping outside a lot, and I say escaping, but that's kind of like to get out of this zone, be outside. And I think what happens though is physical things, you might then supplant your emotions onto that. And that's what I'm trying to say. I think it's okay if you want to collect physical media, but you have to be very deliberate in not making it take over the sort of grounding you have in life. I know that's all a lot of weird philosophical stuff to say, but it's been a very strange month for me. It's very, and good reason, for good ways, bad, all that.